the top matchups basically at the top. So let's start. Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 1.5 in Germany. I misspoke the other day calling this a Dolphins home game. I did misspeak. It is a Chiefs home game.
Germany, what difference does it make?
I know it doesn't, because I was saying that the Dolphins lost a home game, basically. The Chiefs have lost a home game. What I was referencing was that I think it's interesting that the NFL chose this as the Germany game, because you lose like the Tyreek Hill homecoming in Kansas City and whatever drama there. But it is Tyreek Hill going up against his former team. It's the 6-2 first place Dolphins, the 6-2 first place Chiefs. It's the Dolphins trying to show that they belong with the superpowers of the AFC. The Chiefs trying to prove that last week was just a fluke, just their one bad game that they tend to have every single season, losing to the Broncos. So many storylines here, and we know, obviously, Vegas believes that the game is going to be close. Chiefs by just 1.5 here against the Dolphins.
Yeah. Miami last week, I guess, was the first week where they showed that they could still put up a ton of points, ton of yards against a decent defense. Like, that had been the elephant in the room for that team heading into last week. And even last week, they had a turnover, a bad interception from Tua. It wasn't the kind of runaway freight train that it's been in other games. But, like, Kansas City's defense quietly this season has been the best defense that's ever been put next to Mahomes. So this is a real test for that Dolphins offense again. And, they've passed a few of them this season, but the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been pretty nasty. I mean, they're good at all three levels now. They've got threats at all three levels, and they're mixing it up. They're creative. They will challenge everything that this Dolphins team brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a challenge for the Dolphins offense. However, the Chiefs' run defense, I think the Chiefs' defense has been fantastic this year. Their run defense, second worst EPA per play allowed, and that's where I think Miami, with their run game and the explosive plays that they can create, might be able to have some success there. I mean, that's the thing about this Chiefs defense. They're not giving up a ton of points. As you mentioned, probably the best of the Mahomes era, certainly the best as far as points per game allowed. It's second best in the NFL at only 16 points per game. But in that game last week, remember I always try to describe if you're the team playing the Chiefs, and you just keep getting 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards a pop, and at the end of the day, you have this Javonte Williams 27 carries for 90 yards. It's one of those, like, it kind of works against the Chiefs. It will shorten the game and keep Mahomes off the field and everything. I think Miami might be able to have some success there. And, if I'm going to use, let me see Miami's home splits here. If I'm going to use Tennessee home and away splits, a reminder that Miami's averaging 43.5 points at home, in part because of that 70-point game against the Broncos, but they're at 30-plus in every single game. They're down to only 24 points per game on the road, which includes at New England, at Philadelphia, at Buffalo. Just something to keep an eye on with Miami. Will they be as explosive outside of Miami? They've been a different team, and there's a lot to love about this game, though. Yeah. Miami's passing attack is going to be challenged by this Chiefs pass defense.
It is. And, part of the reason I think the Miami's offense has run into some struggles in recent weeks, number one, the defenses they've been playing, but number two, that offensive line, which had been playing really well and is still playing really well relative to expectations, I think, it's been beat up. It's, been forced into the bench, and the starters were not necessarily a completely set group anyway, but now, they've been down 2 or 3 offensive linemen in each of the last few weeks. The more offensive linemen you're down, the more the deeper into the bench you got to go, the more struggles you're dealing with, and Kansas City has got defensive linemen that can take advantage of that. I mean, we saw what Dexter Lawrence was capable of doing against backup offensive linemen last week at nose tackle. I mean, Chris Jones is capable of doing that kind of thing against basically anybody on that Miami Dolphins offensive line. George Karlaftis, we talked about having a much better year too. They've got some players that can cause problems for this Miami offensive line if they're not able to hold up, if they're not healthy, and they're not going to be 100% healthy. It's a case of how many of those starters are down still.
Yeah, Chiefs defensive line, in part, their defense being second best in points allowed this year. Defensive line, their depth, the guys that you mentioned, Charles and Menahue, like their ability to, the stat you highlighted a couple weeks ago, Chris Jones just going to go line up over Austin Jackson a couple times,
right,
and probably win, right? So when they need it, and that's to his blind side, by the way, where Chris Jones likes to line up. Not that blind side matters. But just keep an eye on that Chiefs defensive line. Other side of the ball, the Chiefs offense against the Dolphins defense. I got a couple stats for you here.
Oh, yeah?
Because you got the Vic Fangio defense in Miami. They're kind of known for, we're going to play a lot of too high. We're going to make you throw the ball underneath. And the stats kind of bear that out. The Dolphins are allowing the fourth lowest completion percentage on 20-plus yard throws. But they're also allowing 88% completions. Worst in the league, highest in the league, on passes up to 9 yards. And as much as we, I think, still picture Patrick Mahomes making spectacular downfield throws, that hasn't been his game for 2 straight years now. And last year, the short passing game was outstanding. They didn't need to throw the ball down the field a ton. This year, when they do throw the ball down the field, the Chiefs, it hasn't been good. Mahomes has a passer rating of 48.1 on 20-plus yard throws. And before you say, why are you using that stat? Use EPA. Passer rating's fine in those instances. EPA is good when you have to include sacks and non-targeted passes. I think for targeted passes, passer rating tells the story perfectly fine. 48 passer rating for Mahomes on 20-plus yard throws. There's context involved there. He had to heave one up on 4th and forever last week. But either way, they're not creating plays down the field, Kansas City. But I think the Dolphins defense, this plays into their strengths. What I'm curious about with Miami, Jalen Ramsey back last week, Xavier Howard back. Those guys could maybe get physical and actually challenge some of the short stuff with Kansas City and force Mahomes to make some plays down the field, which it just hasn't been good. And it's not all, it's a Mahomes stat, but it's not all him, right? There's inconsistency from his receivers. There's miscommunications going on. It's just not great, except when he heaves it up to Justin Watson. It seems to be pretty good. So if Miami plays the way they're continuing to play, like the way they have played, I think the Chiefs have a chance to move the ball better than they have in recent weeks. If the Chiefs have another struggle offensively, at what point are you a little concerned about their offense? Remember, half their games this year, 20 or fewer points, 4 out of 8 games so far. I know it's Mahomes and they'll figure it out and everything, but will they? Do they have enough of that supporting cast? Is it too reliant on Travis Kelce at this point? And then the one other factor, can Taylor Swift get to Germany? Is she going to be there? The without splits come into play here with Travis Kelce.
Yeah. I mean, can she get to Germany?
Can she afford, a flight to Germany?
Yeah, I feel like she could.
Okay.
I think she can make that happen.
I was giving great football analysis and then did that.
Yeah, well done. I saw a post. Apparently, Travis Kelce's filed for a bunch of trademarks recently. And the people are like, hey, see, Taylor Swift's giving him business advice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what people are saying.
I feel like you got the business advice this offseason before you ended up in every commercial.
Yeah.
There's always like a new guy that's in every commercial the next year. This year it's Kelce.
It is.
One year it was Baker Mayfield.
Kelce is in every commercial you could find. The Chiefs' defense is kind of interesting, though. They rank slightly, and by slightly I mean like 3/100ths of a percentage point below league average in blitz rate, right? But they have 6 different non-defensive linemen have double-digit pass rushing snaps, right? So essentially they've sent 6 different back 7 players on the blitz like double-digit times this season, and a whole bunch more like single digits. So they don't blitz as often as a lot of teams, but they do mix it up, and the blitzes are coming from weird places, and you can't necessarily pin down who's going to be blitzing at any given moment. Like, they're very good at timing and disguising and sort of being unpredictable with who exactly is going to be rushing the passer at any given moment. And that, I think, ties into why they're good and difficult to why they cause problems for so many offenses, because it's an unusual defense in that way.
Spags getting crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm loving that matchup. I'm loving the matchups on both sides of the ball, man. Right? Will Spags come after Tua a little bit? Will the Chiefs have a special plan for Tyreek Hill? They'll know him better than anyone. Will they have a special plan, or they just because Spags does like to play press man, but you don't play press against Tyreek Hill unless you have a safety in the area. The Dolphins, I think, have learned how to play with teams leaning Tua's way, or they have to continue to learn and open things up for other players. So there's a lot There's a lot at play here.
Tua also has Mahomesian numbers against the blitz this year. 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 turnover-worthy plays. So forget interceptions. The guy has not put the ball in harm's way against the blitz this season, and a passing grade of 91.6. So he's got the kind of numbers that say, don't blitz them. That's a bad idea.
I'm looking forward to it, man. There's a lot of big games this week. This one will kick it off 9:30 a.m. Chiefs by 1.5. Where are you leaning in this one?
I think I probably am leaning Kansas City.
I am too. So we agree on the first two. I'm going Chiefs. So the one thing against Miami, are they ready to play and defeat some of the best teams?
Right.
And are they ready to not just beat up on teams with losing records? Are they ready to take that step? I hear Dolphins fans yelling at me right now. Just asking the question. I think they'll hang tough. I think it'll be a really good game. I'll take the Chiefs, though. I think I will not overreact to last week's Chiefs debacle.
Yeah, I mean,
the Broncos.
Kansas City is objectively in that top-tier category of teams, along with Buffalo and Philadelphia in particular. And those are effectively the worst games the Dolphins have played, right, when they've run into the top-tier teams in the NFL. So it is a fair question still to be like, can they beat those teams? Can they show the kind of production that they've shown against everybody else against those top-tier teams? This is the next opportunity to prove that they can do that.